Keep the Baraka coming every Monday and Friday morning.
Morning Baraka at 9 a.m. GMT time.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Jum'ah Mubarak to everyone watching this morning.
Yes, we do hope, inshallah, that your Jummah is filled with as much barakah throughout the day. And it's the start of Rajab. The Holy Prophet has said, whoever fasts a day in this month will be granted great reward from the angels. And it's extra special today because it's the birthday of 3 Imams. Brother Ali, do you know which ones?
Yes, the births of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, and Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. Are you going to be celebrating today, inshallah?
Inshallah, why not? But God, peace and blessings be upon them all. That's correct, and you're absolutely right. So we shall give him a clap. I will be reading the du'as and hope to attract the barakah of this important days.
Brilliant. It's really a very important and a special time. And if you're watching this morning, then we hope our show really increases your barakah in the month of Rajab. We'll be speaking, speaking of barakah, we have a great lineup for you today. We have Sayyid Jalal in the studio with our very important Holy Quran recitation with ayahs from Surah Ar-Rahman.
Excellent. And straight after that, we have Brother Ibrahim on the couch with daily du'as, which will include a beautiful recitation and explanation about Dua al-Faraj.
Dua al-Faraj. We also have a psychotherapist, Sister Baraka, dropping by to discuss a very important topic which affects a lot of individuals in our community, and that is grief.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we look forward to discussing, and a heavy topic, subhanAllah, with vital information. It's all you need to be aware of. And today we also have your health questions and queries answered with Dr. Yasser Madni. And today we discuss the importance of healthy lungs.
Very important. We also have your fiqh questions and queries answered by our very own Sayyid Ali Nawab regarding parenting. So I'm really looking forward to that part of the show.
Excellent.
And for more information regarding the competition, in regards to a ziyarah being recited on your behalf, more details with Mustafa.
The holy city of Karbala is home to tragedies, heartbreak, as well as treasures and wonders. Millions from around the world come to this sacred city with their prayers and tears. As well as being home to Imam Hussein Media Group, it's the home and resting place of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and his brother Abu Fadhil Abbas alayhum as-salam. Imam Hussein sacrificed his life for the sake of truth and preservation of the religion and teachings of his grandfather Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Imam Baraka says, order our Shia to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, since doing so increases sustenance, extends life, removes evil, and that visiting the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a duty upon every believer who believes in Imamat from Allah Almighty. So we invite you to come to Karbala and come to visit your Imam and perform ziyarah. Unfortunately, not everyone can come visit Imam Hussein. Not everyone has the ability or opportunity to visit regularly, and that's why Morning Baraka is giving you the opportunity to perform ziyarah from your very homes. We want you to send in your du'as and names of your loved ones so we can recite the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on their behalf. Maybe you have a loved one whose name you want to put forward, a marhum who would benefit, or maybe you miss Karbala and yearn to see Imam Hussein, peace and blessings be upon him. Why not send a small message or a dua for us to read here in the holy city of Karbala? Whoever's name you put, whatever dua or small message you have, the Morning Baraka team will pass it on to our team here in Karbala, and we will recite the ziyarah, read the message, and broadcast it on Imam Hussein TV3. Send in your names, du'as, and small messages to Morning Baraka at @ImamHussein.tv, or messages, or leave a comment on any of our social media platforms. We look forward to hearing from you, and may Allah and the Ahlul Bayt accept all of our a'mal and our ziyarah, inshallah.
Yes, to kickstart today's program, we have a jam-packed show, but to really kick it off with the blessings of the holy recitation of the Quran, of course, Sayyid Jalal Ma'soumi will be joining us. Sayyid Jalal, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, so Sayyid Jalal, inshallah we will hear from you, but I believe that you're reciting from Surah Ar-Rahman, verses 1 to 16.
Yes, inshallah.
Brilliant, so please, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان. والنجم والشجر يسجدان. والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان. ألا تطغوا في الميزان. وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان. والنجم والشجر يسجدان. والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا أمير المؤمنين وأبناءه المعصومين حجج الله صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
مكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Yes, many thanks for your time and your wonderful recitations, Sayyid Jalal Ma'soumi. Really appreciate your time. Now we're at the part of the show, Zahra, where I think it's one of my favorite parts, where we really take a deep dive into the du'as, the supplications, the ziyaras within the school of the Ahlul Bayt that we can take lessons from, and we kind of handpick ones that people don't really know much about. Today, on the contrary, it's a dua that we've chosen that everyone knows about, but because it's Friday, we want to shed light on some aspects of this dua that perhaps can make you think, oh, I didn't know, and maybe get some thoughts going regarding the dua. So Zahra, myself, and yourself, I keep saying myself and yourself, but we are going to be welcoming Ibrahim al-Ansari onto the show. Ibrahim, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How's everything? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, how about yourselves?
Alhamdulillah, good, thank you. Sorry, I've got my mouth full of chocolate, so I'm not talking, but welcome.
It's your energy for the day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you very much for having me once again.
And so, yeah, as Ali's saying, that we are hoping that you can shed some more deeper wisdom into Dua al-Faraj.
Yes.
Yeah, what's your actual thought of it? And
Okay, so Dua al-Faraj, with many of us, we believe it to be a dua for any day. So usually, the question I usually get asked from yourselves is, when is this best to recite?
Yeah.
Now, in fact, it was actually, it's in the books when it's narrated. So, for example, Al-Kulayni narrates it in Al-Kafi. It is narrated in Kitab al-Isbah and in another book, I believe, which I cannot remember at the moment, where they narrate it from the Ma'sumin. They don't actually specify which Ma'sum it is.
right.
In all of them, they state from the infallibles. We narrate this from the infallibles. We narrate this from the Imams.
Right.
And it comes in to be the dua to be recited on the night of the 23rd of Ramadan, which is Laylatul Qadr. So it is best to recite it then. Then it carries on, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Then it carries on to say, however, you could also recite it in any other night in Ramadan. So here I stopped for a second. I said, well, we recite this every day, so
Yes.
where did we get this from? But then it carries on. In fact, it adds, in fact, it is also good to recite it for your whole life.
Wow.
It literally says this, لِلْعُمْرِ كُلُّهُ. So for your whole life, meaning every single day of your life, to include this dua is amazing and has great benefits.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because we always know Dua al-Faraj as a dua on a daily basis, or for example after Salah.
Yeah.
I've never,
Qunut, even in prayers.
I'd never have thought that according to Al-Kafi or Kulayni, according to the Kitab al-Isbah, that actually the origin of Dua al-Faraj was supposed to be recited on the night of the 23rd of Ramadan. And then it goes on further to say, actually no, it's any other night in Ramadan. Actually no, it's recommended to do it your whole life.
Yes, it's recommended to do it every single day of your life. And like you correctly said, it was actually specifically for the night of Qadr.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we have no indication as to which one of the Imams?
I didn't find, personally, I did not find which Imam it was, because in all of the books it states from the infallibles or from the Imams, it narrates this. However, because of such issues and because of the whole Sanad issue, a lot of people actually try to say that this dua is very weak in terms of Sanad, and that it should not be recited. And there's a scholar by the name of a Sayyid Ali ibn Musa ibn Tawus, I believe. He says, after talking about the amazingness of making du'as for your brothers and your sisters, he said, so if there is such amazing fadl, if there's such amazing blessings from making du'a for your brothers and your sisters, then how about the fadl of making du'a for the Imam of your time? He said, therefore, throw away anything that says there is no sanad to this. Throw away anything that says that this dua should not be recited, because if there's fadl of making normal dua, so may Allah grant you health, there's amazing fadl in that. So how about making dua for the Imam of your time, the one who you believe is the reason for your existence, the one who you believe that it wasn't for him you wouldn't be who you are, the one who you believe if it wasn't for him the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not be on this world today.
Beautiful. I'd like you to recite it.
That was my
Be
next
nice
question. Yeah, so if you can recite it, and I'd love to find out more about the actual words itself and what they actually mean. That'd be great as well.
Definitely, inshallah. Bismillah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsant. Yeah, so can you shed light on actually what the meaning is behind this dua?
Now, before I actually go into the actual meaning, people sometimes have some issues because it relates to the meaning. People sometimes have issues with saying, why are you making dua for the Imam? Is he not sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is he in need of your du'as? And even in the person, the scholar I just mentioned earlier, Sayyid Ali ibn Musa ibn Tawus, he says, and do not think that I am saying this because the Imam is in need of your du'as. Then he says, hayhat, he will never be in need of this. It is impossible for the Imam to be in need of our du'as. However, the issue is that we sometimes tend to forget that, first of all, the Imam is a human just like we are. Meaning, he can get ill, he can be in some sort of injury, he's a normal human being. He lives his life the way we do. And for example, in Ziyarah Jama'a, which we went through last episode, we said, أجسادكم في الأجساد وأرواحكم في الأرواح, to show that the Imams live their lives and are normal human beings just like we are. And therefore, to always make dua for the health of the Imam is amazing. Other than the whole fact of that dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making a closer connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in this case we're making a closer connection to Sahib al-Zaman alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. And we need to make this connection to Sahib al-Zaman, because at the end of the day, like the scholar mentioned, he is the reason for our existence. Without him we would not exist. So the dua starts off by saying, O Allah, be for your representative the Hujjah, son of Al-Hasan. Now here are two parts that I want to focus on. First, it says the Hujjah. Hujjah in the Arabic language, and the way it is referring back to your Hujjah, Al-Hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using Imam al-Mahdi as one of his signs, as one of his proofs. So sometimes we just say it as, yeah, he's the proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but no, that's a big thing. The Quran is the proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the miracles are proofs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Imam al-Mahdi is the greatest proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Wow.
Especially in the life that we're living in. And then we know that it is specifically talking about Imam Mahdi because the dua specifically says Ibn al-Hasan, the son of al-Hasan. So
there's no sense of ambiguity here regarding the son of Hassan, right? It couldn't refer to any other son
No,
of
it is
Hassan
very specific.
okay.
Very specific to Imam al-Mahdi. Of course, following the guidelines of our scholars.
Okay.
Yeah. Then it says, your blessings be upon him and his forefathers. And sending blessings upon them is something that we were ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do. When He said, Sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima.
Yeah.
It's an order. Sallu is an order. Send blessings upon them. Then it says, in this hour and in every hour. I feel like this is a lesson to us as well. In this hour and in every hour. Because it is not just about us saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always send blessings upon Imam al-Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farjah sharif. But we are also telling, it's also the Ma'sumin teaching us that we must always remember him in this hour and in every hour. He must always be on our minds.
Definitely.
A guardian, a protector, a leader, a helper, a proof, and an eye. Sometimes we think an eye, what's he mean with an eye? But it is the eye in terms of hifz that we say, translate
Protection.
to protection.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the protection. He oversees what goes on the day of judgment when we are asked, or even now today, the Imam Ajalla Ta'ala Farjah Sharif is wary of our deeds.
Yeah.
Whatever good and whatever bad we do is presented to the Imam of our time. And then it says, until you make him live on the earth in obedience to you, and cause him to live in it for a long time. Obedience. Again, does the Imam need such a dua? For us to say, oh Allah, allow him to be obedient to you? No. But once again, we create a stronger bond with the Imam. And in this specific section where we say make him be obedient to you, or make him raise in his taqwa, make him raise in his iman, it is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is limitless. Meaning that no matter how obedient Imam al-Mahdi is, he can get more obedient. Even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is of perfection, even he can get more obedient, more iman, more taqwa, and everything. This because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is limitless.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
That's brilliant. Actually, it's very interesting to know, because this dua is, we read it on a daily basis, but we don't actually know the kind of the true meanings behind it. Even sometimes, like I was listening to a scholar who was saying that Allahumma kun li waliyika, even that sometimes is pronounced wrong.
Yeah.
So people will say Allahumma kun li waliyika, but that's a total wrong
Different
pronunciation.
meaning,
It's a different meaning.
Yeah.
So we have to actually make sure Allahumma kun li waliyika, and actually getting the translation for that is quite interesting. Oh Allah, be for your representative the hujjah.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to know. I want to recap. I've taken some notes. I think there's got like 2-3 minutes left.
But, before we go to the recap, so we're asking for this connection, but do you think that, I remember seeing sort of like the benefits of reciting this, that, you know, numerous. Do you know any that are particular prevalent to this dua, if we recite it?
Of course, there are many benefits to any dua that is recited. Part of the benefits of making dua for Imam al-Hujjah is actually showing that you are being patient for his reappearance. It is showing that you are in the state of waiting for his reappearance. And in fact, mentioning that note, one of the best a'mal that a mu'min can do during the ghaibah of Imam Sahib al-Zaman is waiting for his reappearance. But here there's a very important point. When we say waiting for his reappearance, it doesn't mean that we just sit waiting and doing nothing. But of course, part of it is being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By being obedient, you are showing that you are waiting for Sahib al-Zaman. By constantly calling out to Sahib al-Zaman shows that you are waiting for him. And a very important thing, giving sadaqah in the name of Sahib al-Zaman is also one of the best ways of showing that you are waiting for his reappearance.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I hope people have benefited just like we have.
Yep.
I have personally.
100%.
As you said, we recite this and it can become something that's like, you know, repetitive. technique, but to actually think about what we're reciting. Do you want to quickly go over your recap?
I guess it's just a couple of points just for people to take away from. It's just that in Kulaini mentioned in the book of Al-Kafi and also in Kitab al-Isbah is that this particular dua was actually narrated by one of the infallibles, and it's recommended, or it was initially recommended, or this person narrated that it's recommended to recite on the 23rd of Ramadan, which is the Eid, it's the Laylatul Qadr. But then it goes on to say, no, it's recommended to recite every day within Ramadan, and then it goes, no, it's recommended to do your whole lifetime. I think that's one thing that was quite interesting to know, and also that there are certain words within the dua itself, like for example, wa'ayna, waqa'ida wa nasran. So it's essentially saying that, I guess, send your blessings upon the Imam in this hour and every hour, a guardian, a protector, a leader, a helper, a proof, and an eye. And this is the eye that, for example, it's the connotations of the eye as being a protector or a guardian.
Overseeing the Imam at all times.
Overseeing the Imam at all time. I think that was one of the main things that I guess people can take away from.
Brilliant.
There's a lot
Thank you
more,
so much.
but just 2 or 3 points.
We're out of time, unfortunately. Thank you so much.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much.
Have a blessed day, inshallah.
Thank you, likewise.
See you soon.
Inshallah.
And
to the break.
we are having a break, so don't go away unless you're making a cup of tea. But next I'll be speaking to Sister Baraka Hussein in The Specialist. Good morning, welcome back dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV. I hope you're enjoying the morning. We've had Quran and our dua session, so we're revitalized, and we got a cup of tea ready because we're going to have quite a deep conversation with our dear sister Baraka Hussein, who's traveled all the way from Canada to join us. She is a psychotherapist and you can find her on social media as the Muslim Counselor. So I'd like to welcome. Assalamu alaikum dear sister.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you this morning?
Alhamdulillah, yourself?
Good, thank you. We are going to be, as I mentioned to the viewers, we're going to talk about something that I suppose most of us go through in life, if not everybody, and it's about grief and the loss of a dear one, and that loss can be in any capacity. But really, rather me introduce it, I'd really like to hear sort of your experience and how you would go, because there's several stages and we all respond and react differently. So,
of course,
what would you say, sort of, how would you want to help our viewers to sort of, who may be going through something grief now, somebody's ill, may not be living for long, what's the different types of bereavement and grief?
Big question.
I'm hoping you're going to break that down. And,
inshallah, I'll do my best, inshallah, with Allah's tawfiq. It's, everybody responds differently, and what we need to understand that it's a normal response. Your response could be different from the next person, yet that's still normal to you. So we don't know how to respond. A lot of people, when they hear about a loss of a friend or a friend of a friend or family, they don't know what to say. It becomes very awkward. You don't know how to comfort. You don't know, how, what's appropriate to say, what's not appropriate to say. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Just the person who is experiencing a loss of a dear one, and a loss may not necessarily be death, by the way. It could be the ending of a relationship, a marriage, or a friendship. There's a grieving process there as well. There's sadness involved, unless it was you know, an unhappy relationship and the person's happy to get out of it, that's a different case, of course.
Yeah.
But there are stages, phases rather, that
But
people
even,
could
sorry,
experience.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but even in the stages where you've lost a friend or you've come out of a relationship and you're happy that it's ended, but there's still a point where that was right for you, and perhaps, you know, you're still going to go through something, aren't
Of
you?
course,
So it's not that we
yes.
should just think, oh, you're happy. But no, it's interesting because I think we often overestimate our emotions. So
Yes, I mean, you may not necessarily want to get back together with that person if you experience sadness, because it's an ending, and there is a sadness to, excuse me, there is a sadness to endings regardless. So that's again normal, and you may experience that, you may not. It really depends. And so when we take a look at that grief compared to the grief of somebody who's no longer coming back because they've passed on, as we were saying, there are different stages to that. At first, usually people tend to experience denial, the shock, rather, shock that this happened, especially in sudden death, especially if it was unexpected, car accident, or somebody's taken their own lives, suicide, which is happening, unfortunately, in our community.
And we will be talking about that, viewers, in the future episodes in the morning, so please do keep tuned with these episodes. So,
Yeah, this is an important topic that we absolutely need to explore in our communities. So the sudden death could produce that initial shock. I find within our Muslim culture, we have strategies to deal with that. Right away when we hear something like that, what do we say? Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We are from God and to Him we return. We say that because that is haqq, that's the truth. We are all going to taste death. We will all experience it in some form or another, whether it's the loss of people around us, ending of our lives as well. So it's very much a part of our culture and our awareness, especially when you look at majalis. The grieving that we experience there in Muharram and different mourning times throughout the year. It's part of our Islamic culture, especially the Shias. So it's a part of our lives that we know this way because we're commemorating deaths of loved ones from long ago, special people, imams in our lives. But it's different when we experience somebody that we know personally. But we use the strength and we use the perseverance and patience from the majalis, let's say, to apply here. And I find that a lot, especially with the older generation, they draw upon that to help them with that.
And
so
I think just before we go to your next point, I think because I've recently experienced a bereavement of a family member.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you so much, and God bless his soul. But for me, even when someone says just those simple words, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, it's about, you cannot question God's decision. We've come with a time frame, birth and death. It's in His hands. It's in that, whatever His decree is, and it's that submission and acceptance, isn't it? Not to say, but why? And I often find people who perhaps don't have faith will question, but why did that happen? Why did they die so young? And I think we are so blessed to have those words of comfort. As you said, it's haqq, that, you know what, at the end, Allah wanted that person back, and that was their time. And
exactly. It's the acceptance that helps. It's almost a comforting validation when we hear those words, which reduces the shock of it, right? Some people get into the denial, which is why you hear the question, why? So denial is also another phase that people can experience, especially when we lose young ones.
So is it shock?
Shock, denial.
Right.
These are, I would say, phases. They're not necessarily in that order. Everybody will experience them differently, but these are some of the phases people could experience.
And it's
so
good
shock,
to recognize it, isn't it? If in somebody you think, okay, that person's in that stage.
Maybe they're in that stage. Denial. That no, they're going to come back. They're going to answer my message, return my call. I expect them to come in through the door. It's hard. It's painful to experience that, but again, it's part of those phases. Some people could experience anger. Anger. I've heard people say anger towards God. Right? Anger towards the universe, anger towards the tragedy that took place, or or the person that caused it, if it was a car accident, for example. Just angry at everybody. Again, with the question of why, right? Like, why did this happen so suddenly, so young? Why is my mother no longer with me? So people could experience that. I find within our communities, because we offer so much support and love, and we have special commemorations for those who have passed on, which provide so much support for the grieving process. I don't find a lot of people within our communities experience so much the anger. I find that with people who don't have strong faith or don't have the supports that we have in our culture.
Yeah.
And then people come to perhaps
and
the
even, sorry, I was going to say, even when the process begins of someone grieving a loss, a death, the fact that, you know, neighbours are coming with food and, you know, taking that responsibility off their shoulders, not to think about the day to day, so they can focus on the person they've lost, maybe do the prayers and think that they need that time to connect to God, to, you know, understand and go through their emotions, don't they? But in terms of the stages, so you've mentioned three, so anger as well. Do you need to go through all of them, or can you jump from sort of...
Again, everybody's different. You may not experience any of these things and go instantly to the acceptance part, which is, I accept this happened, I negotiate with my environment, I use the supports and resources around me, I've accepted this has happened.
Wow.
And I find a lot of people within our communities do jump to that. But there are those still struggling with the other phases, and it depends on their personality, it depends on their coping strategies, it does depend on their faith as well when it comes to death. Those who may not have an understanding or acceptance of it will struggle more with it.
And children probably, you know, they're developing, aren't they? So you could understand those emotions of anger and, you know, denial and shock that child would probably go through something they've had to...
And we use different language with children, right? We always say, you know, this person is in Jannah now, this person is in heaven. And so for them it's, okay, they're not here, but can I see them again? So because again, their cognitive development hasn't reached where they understand they're no longer coming back. But there's different ways of speaking. I've noticed within our communities, we don't right away tell, when we break the news, so to speak, we don't right away tell the person, this person is dead. We break it slowly. They're in the hospital, they're not doing well, they're struggling, they didn't make it. So I find it's presented softly, not right away to shock the person.
Is that a good way in your...
I've personally experienced that when my uncle and my cousins years ago in Iraq passed away. It wasn't, I had just had a child too, so it wasn't presented to me immediately. With my cousins, I remember that. It was softly and slowly, because they didn't want me to react in a, especially vulnerable, you know, after childbirth. The experience with my uncle was when I was actually in Iraq. I was living there after I'd graduated university, and the news was he had gone to visit his daughter in another city and had come through Baghdad and was going to visit me before heading back to Karbala. And so Karbala kept calling, has he come to visit you? Has he come to see you? I'm like, no, we didn't even know he was coming. But he hasn't come back to us. So I recall myself and my male cousins, they said, you're staying home. I'm like, no, I'm Canadian, I'm coming with you. We don't stay home waiting for news as women. We went around hospital to trying to find him. So I recall afterwards, my cousins did find him, but he hadn't made it. But they didn't tell me right away. They said, oh, we can't find him right now, we'll go tomorrow. But when I arrived back home, one of my cousins took me into the room and told me, al-baqa fi hayatik, you know, may the rest of your family. And what do you mean? We're going back tomorrow. But they slowly, they didn't want to shock me right away in the hospital. So sometimes, you know, a part of you knows that that person is no longer there. And of course it was very shocking. But I experienced firsthand what it was like, especially in that culture, how the grieving occurs. It's very dramatic. But at the same time, quite healing with the family. You were there to mourn this person. Yes, there's spirituality involved, there's majalis, there's Quran, there's du'as to help in that, and to give to the soul that passed on, and to help with the healing and the pain, and the love and the support was amazing. Because during the day, I saw that people were experiencing the pain and, you know, giving to each other. But in the evening, there were laughter and jokes. And that's part of it as well.
But some people can't accept that, can they? Because they're grieving at such an intensity that they will look at others laughing and think, what do you find funny? And I experienced that in a death that, you know, we had in our family. But like you said, it's so important to understand that we all grieve so differently. And one thing we mustn't do is judge others of how they do, because
Absolutely.
maybe they need that outlet.
They could be laughing, by the
Yeah,
way, outwardly, and you go, what's
yeah.
wrong with this person?
Yeah.
But then they haven't come
Inside,
to terms,
no.
perhaps. There's a saying, and I'm going to paraphrase it, as I don't remember it word for word, but life does not cease to exist when someone dies, and laughter does not cease, something like that, along the
Yeah.
lines that you can still have laughter
Yeah.
even with pain and grief.
Absolutely.
That life still continues.
It does continue. We've got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything else that you want to touch on that's, you know, perhaps even more of the stages, or perhaps in a relationship bereavement, people go through, not to underestimate the emotions? What would you...
It really depends on the connection you've had with that person, of course, right? But from a mental health perspective, prolonged grief could lead to isolation, could lead to depression and anxiety and other mental health struggles. So you want to be aware of that as well. You know, if you are struggling, please go reach out, talk to a grief counselor, talk to a sheikh, talk to a alima, talk to some family and friends that you can connect with, and to get that support. You shouldn't be struggling alone with this.
I mean, someone as yourself who's, you know, equipped to deal with this kind of stress, do you think we need to do more work in our communities, as in have people that are more accessible in your kind of field, or do you think sheikhs and alamas should be trained? How are we doing in our community?
Everything you said above, in the sense that sheikhs and alamas would be wonderful if they have counseling skills, because they are the frontline workers in our community that people turn to right away for supports. And I've worked with a variety of sheikhs and alimas all over the world, and they say that to me. And I encourage them, please do get some counseling skills that they have them already, but official counseling skills where they can do couples, grief, individual counseling for folks in our community, especially from a spiritual, religious point of view, which is what we need. Alhamdulillah, there are those who have it. There are those who are continuing to or looking to get that training and doing events together to bring awareness and normalizing it. And so when we're talking about grief, we need to normalize it in our communities. We need to reach out to those who are struggling, not just because after the funeral, after the burial, after the 40th, after the year, do we forget about this person and their grief? We tend to do that, right? We'll have the yearly annual. But how are they doing in between? That's what's important. This is where the support has to come in.
And actually, even sadly, I've heard people say, oh, why are you still grieving? Okay, it's been a year. But like, oh, it really breaks my heart when I hear people saying about others. You think, well, what do you know what they're going through?
You don't know what their experience is. I mean, you've heard stories of couples, elderly couples, who within days apart, there was nothing wrong with that other person, but they pass on. Why is that? Because of the deep connection and love that they had. They feel they cannot live without that person. I'm sure you've heard of those stories. So it's we cannot judge. And when it comes to mental health, because there's a huge mental health aspect to grieving. And part of the tips that I can offer is to continue eating well. You don't have an appetite, I understand. But please try to continue eating healthy. Lots of fluids in your system. Still continue your exercise routines. If you don't, please have an outlet for your stress hormones. Continue with things slowly. You know, obviously you need to take time off work and whatnot in school, but we try to give the advice of keeping to the routine. At least you have control over that, and this helps you manage the day-to-days and ask for support, seek support.
Wow, it's just, you just covered so much, and I guess there's still so much I could have asked. But as you said, you know, it's really understanding your own emotions, isn't it? And reaching out and gaining, and for us as people observing someone else going through that grief, to really reach out, and that's where emotional intelligence comes in. And I know we've had conversations off air about the interlink with faith. But again, as usual, time just flies. Thank you so much.
Bless you.
Inshallah, we'll see you another morning, and have a lovely day. Please keep us in your dars. And next up, we have Dr. Yasser Madani, and we'll be having another topic about the lungs.
You've been caught for raping English girls. Remember? You're here defending the paedophile. I'm here defending your dad. Women are here defending the paedophile. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy.
They love us, our food, our fashion,
our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
and plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active. Be more involved. www.imamhusseinfree.tv.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and this is the time that we're going to be talking more about medical infections and things that really affect the lungs. So if you missed the last program, please do watch it again. It explains the anatomy, physiology of the lungs. So we're going to go in this session about talking about really things that most of us will face sort of winter time, and things like flu, pneumonia, colds, and we are very blessed to have join with us, Dr. Syed Madani. Welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. And just to echo the words of Zahra as well, make sure that you do watch the last episode with Sayyid Yasser, because it kind of gives you the foundation of what we're going to speak about for the rest of the episode. So, as she mentioned,
yes. Have you had flu this year?
Have I had flu this year? Oh, well,
a cold.
Coincidentally,
man cold.
Coincidentally, we're going to be talking about Iraq in this episode, because we talked about this before we went on air. And I came back from Iraq just not long ago.
Right.
And yeah, I had this really, really bad flu. I'm not sure if it was directly from Iraq.
Yeah.
I probably think it was. I came in for about 2-3 weeks. I still had the symptoms. Didn't really want to take anything, didn't want to go to the doctors, because I know it's just one of those things. However, you kind of get worried after a while, because if it's 2-3 weeks, your voice is still not good, and you still have, for example, runny nose. You feel like maybe it's something that you need to get checked out. But alhamdulillah, it's all
so
yeah.
to give Ali his consultation now, we will refer to the expert for your man flu.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as man flu? Anyway, no, general flu.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What's the real question?
The real question is flu.
So we're talking about things that are kind of the everyday common illnesses that affect the lung, or the lungs, because there's two of them. We found out from the past episode. But yeah, tell us first. I think it was the cold, kind of the common cold, the flu. What can we really do to
what causes them, and I guess what can we do to help treat them, and to avoid sort of, like I said in my intro, that A&E, GPs, these are all places where people turn up. So what is it that are we doing the right thing as patients?
Yeah. So the common cold, let's just distinguish between common cold and flu. They're both, flu is just short for influenza. They're both viruses. The flu is caused by the influenza virus. There's different types, A, B, and within them there's different strains. And then the common cold are due to more benign viruses, if you like, less serious than influenza, such as adenovirus, rhinovirus, coronavirus. There's a long list of viruses. So the common cold often just causes symptoms such as runny nose and sore throat and just feeling a bit groggy, maybe a bit of laryngitis, pharyngitis, which is inflammation of the throat. And it can then lead on to ear infections as well, sinus infections. Very rarely can lead to a viral meningitis, which is not the serious type of meningitis. But it's mainly up here. It's ear, nose, throat, if you like. Influenza actually can make you generally unwell. Again, runny nose, sore throat, cough. You can have a cough with common cold as well, phlegm. But you generally feel run down.
Which one is the one that gives you a bit of a fever? You
so
feel
they
cold,
can both
but you're
give you
not.
fever.
Oh, okay.
But more so with influenza.
Right.
And influenza can just make you feel listless, very tired.
Yes.
And one of the things that often distinguishes between the two is, with the flu, you just feel like you can't get out of bed, or you can't go to work. With the cold, you can probably just crack on and go to work, etc. The flu can also cause other symptoms outside of the ear, nose, and throat. It can cause diarrhea and vomiting. It could, and can cause headaches as well. And your immune system is going to be quite busy trying to fight that cold. And therefore, people that are at risk, which we'll talk about shortly, if they get the flu, they may get superimposed bacterial infections on top.
All right.
So they are at risk of getting a pneumonia in the lungs on top of the flu. They may have even pre-existing lung conditions, which already put them at risk of pneumonia, let alone the influenza. So there's a double hit, if you like. So it's normally a self-limiting illness, and the virus dies on its own. There's no treatment that will kill the virus. There are some treatments that in some situations we can give, such as Tamiflu, for example, in the case of influenza, not the other viruses, which will reduce the duration of the illness, but will not kill the virus as such. Right. And actually, those antivirals, if they're not started within about 48 hours, there's no point taking them if you present later than that to A&E or to your GP. So there's some simple things that can be done for both the flu and the common cold. And probably worthwhile doing those rather than trying to pitch up, in A&E or actually waiting to see your GP. Because there's more important things that the GP will be seeing than the common cold. The flu, people can be sick with it, so if you do have certain red flag symptoms and you're very unwell with it, even if you're healthy and you don't have those risk factors, you should probably go and see someone, because you could develop a complication of the flu. But if you don't have those red flags and you just have a common cold, then simple things like bed rest, keeping well hydrated. One of the things that you can...
Fresh orange juice.
Fresh orange juice, absolutely, definitely, because, and literally that's what I do.
Yeah.
I squeeze the orange juice myself, or the oranges myself, and make fresh juice, because that contains a lot of vitamin C, which is very useful for the immune system. There are other things like onions, actually. In our cultures, we use a lot of onions and garlic. They're very good antiseptics. And in fact, some people, it's a bit gross, but some people actually cut an onion in half.
Leave it in the room.
Leave it in the room, because it sucks all the germs from around the room. You're coughing up all these bugs. 100%. Keeping the room well ventilated, so opening the window for all those germs to leave. Just getting a cup, hot water, lemon, ginger, and honey. Very good for the pharyngitis and the laryngitis, sore throat. Really soothes that. Just simple remedies from over the counter, a lot of which I don't believe in personally. Lozenges are good for sore throat. Again, they last for a bit, and then you have to take another one. But all these things are self-help things. They're just symptomatic things. None of them kill the cold. There's again cough syrups that you can buy, etc. I don't believe strongly in them, but you can use them. There's probably no harm. Ibuprofen probably has more evidence scientifically than all of these other remedies. Ibuprofen, as long as you don't have asthma or stomach ulcers or heart failure or kidney failure, ibuprofen is safe to take just for a couple of days. Not on an empty stomach after you've eaten. That's quite good for sore throat. Paracetamol is good for general aches and pains. Both are good for fever. So there's a lot that you can do without needing to actually go and see your GP about these things. And people should be doing that. Unfortunately, we block up our GP waiting rooms and our A&Es and urgent care centres and walk-in centres with things that don't need to be there. And a lot of that includes the common cold.
So I guess what you're saying is, try to do the sort of treat it at home as much as you can. And if you develop certain red flag symptoms, then obviously consult your, the doctors. So say I start getting symptoms of flu or a cold, and then what's the time period for you're contagious, and sort of how to avoid spreading your germs so that others aren't going to be...
That's a very good question, actually. I was going to touch on that. Thank you for asking that question. So it's very basic, just simple hygiene. Anytime you cough, anytime you sneeze, cough or sneeze into a tissue, discard that tissue straight away. Don't put it back and reuse it and put it somewhere. Wash your hands. Because those viruses are not just spread by coughing and sneezing, they're spread by contact.
As well.
So in fact, if you can avoid shaking hands or touching people or embracing people or hugging people, avoid close contact, just for those 48 hours, 72 hours whilst you're contagious.
Right.
And once your symptoms start to get better, then you're probably no longer contagious. It's probably worthwhile avoiding contact with people that are high risk of having complications of the flu should they get the flu. Those people are pregnant women. All right. If you have a cold or the flu, yes, the cold is not as serious as the flu, but you may not know. The flu may start as symptoms of a cold, and some people find it difficult to distinguish. So it's easier to just stay away from people that are high risk, people above the age of 65, people that have long-term medical conditions, heart disease, lung disease, kidney, liver disease, diabetes, all of those things. To an extent can make your body weaker because they affect those major organs. but also they can suppress the immune system, relatively speaking. Anyone who is a transplant recipient, so anyone that has received an organ, whether it's liver, kidney, lung, heart, should by default be on anti-rejection tablets, which prevent the body from fighting that foreign organ. Right? Those anti-rejection tablets suppress the immune system, so they are more prone to infections. So avoid contact with those people. Babies and infants as well, avoid contact with them because they're prone as well. And those are the major categories of people that are at risk. Avoid contact with them. Do that basic hand hygiene. If you have diarrhea and vomiting as well, probably avoid using that same toilet as the person. So use one toilet in the household if you have more than one, and let the rest of the family use another. Or clean the toilet after you if you can. Don't use the same towel. Whether you have cold or diarrhea and vomiting, whichever. Don't use the same towel. Use your separate towel for the duration of the illness.
Wow. So okay, cold, influenza. These are the kind of the symptoms. Is there something worse than that we need to consider? I think there was. We wanted.
Yeah. So the influenza in itself, as we said, can predispose people to develop pneumonia. Those that are at risks, and I've just mentioned those categories of people that are at risk, and those even that are healthy. So sadly, we do see people die from influenza. Not uncomplicated influenza, those that have developed complications.
Okay.
Yeah. So influenza can lead into pneumonia, whether it's a pure viral pneumonia, the virus has caused the pneumonia in the lungs, or has led to a bacterial or predisposed someone to have a bacterial pneumonia. Either way, I mean, it's slightly academic, it's difficult to distinguish. You treat for both anyway, to cover the virus and the pneumonia. But that can develop into other complications such as respiratory failure.
Right. Just before we go into pneumonia, what is it? What are the symptoms?
Very good. So breathlessness, cough, phlegm. Cough and phlegm without breathlessness can just be the cold or the flu. Yeah. So don't get too alarmed just because you have a cold and phlegm. You're not going to die. All right. But if you start developing breathlessness, you shouldn't generally, in a young healthy person with no pre-existing, shouldn't generally develop breathlessness with a cold or just the flu that has not affected the lungs. Once you start getting breathless, you start worrying that something's happening in your lungs, such as a pneumonia. Chest pain. Chest pain is not a common symptom of pneumonia, but so by pneumonia, we should probably take a step back and define it very simply. It's just infection in the lung tissue and the air sacs getting filled with fluid and pus and what have you.
Do you feel anything that your lungs
So
feel?
you don't normally feel anything, but as I was just about to say, if the infection is touching the pleura, if you guys and also our viewers remember from the previous episode, we talked about the anatomy. The pleura is the thin lining around the lung. If the infection is close to the pleura, it's touching the pleura, it can cause a sharp pain each time you breathe in.
Right.
But other than that, it doesn't normally cause pain. You don't feel the gunk and the secretions in your alveoli. If it's a bit more proximal, if the secretions are in your tubes, in your airways, you feel secretions in your airways, so you cough up phlegm often. You feel your chest rattling, you feel a bit wet. Yeah. So that's another symptom of phlegm in the chest rather than phlegm up here. Yeah. So those are the symptoms. And then if you have a fever which is not settling, if you're shivering a lot, if you're sweating a lot, these are other symptoms. Again, not every fever means you have a pneumonia. Probably most people that have fever just have the flu or the common cold. But certainly if it's not settling and it's a very high fever, 39 or above degrees Celsius, then you should, and definitely if you have underlying medical conditions, if you have a fever, you should probably see a doctor.
Do you think that people sort of roll up into A&E and see their GPs because they're concerned that they don't know how to handle the flu, that they generally feel unwell, or do you think they worry about that it's something that's more serious than actually what it is, and there are sort of, you explained what they can do at home, but do you think there is a concern that people think they're worse than they actually are? Because only because I work in we monitor sort of A&E attendances and things, and that it's quite fascinating to see the numbers that roll up in sort of the winter time. So what is the cause, do you think?
So that's a very interesting question. I mean, the answer to that question is quite long, and I'm certainly no expert in this. But I think a lot of it is perception of the person. If a person is very stoic and blasé and I've just got the cold, I'll stay at home, like men often do when they have the flu, they stay at home and they're
Can we give it a technical name, please?
They're sensible and they stay at home rather than pitch up. I'm joking. But there's people that have a high degree of anxiety associated with either the flu or cold or health in general or life in general. And I'm not blaming them. You know, symptoms of breathlessness or what have you are unpleasant symptoms. If people can't breathe or have chest pain, they might feel that they're going to die. So those symptoms, even in a healthy person, they should seek, because something could be going on. But I think there are many inappropriate attendances to A&E, whether it's colds or flu or other things, other minor injuries that can be easily sorted out, you know, at home or other things. So there are inappropriate attendances. And on the converse, there are people that don't present when they should present, and present when it's too late, or you know, they're very sick. The other red flags to mention as well, if pneumonia is an infection, and any infection, whether in the lungs or outside the lungs, can cause sepsis. Sepsis can be life-threatening. People die from sepsis. It's one of the major killers worldwide. Sepsis is the body's response to infections, and sometimes that response actually is damaging to the rest of the organs. The immune system becomes very active, and there's a lot of release of inflammatory mediators in the body, and in fact they start to, in some way or another, attack the body. So the kidneys start to shut down, the heart starts to shut down, the liver, the brain, etc. So sepsis needs to be tackled urgently with antibiotics and supportive treatment. And you know, one of the signs to look at is, you know, when people's hands go cold. That's quite a late sign actually. When the skin becomes mottled, when the person becomes confused, that means there's less oxygen or less blood going to the brain. When the urine output reduces, so they're producing less urine, or the urine becomes very dark, which suggests that they're dehydrated. Those are very serious symptoms. They probably need to, you know, get themselves to A&E straight away. All right. So those are things to be aware of.
Thank you so much.
We still wanted to talk about, you know, your adventures in Iraq and what you've seen there.
Inshallah.
But inshallah we will have time. As for now, once again, a very informed session for the viewers. And don't forget, if you do have a cold or a flu, stay at home. It's probably the best thing for you. And don't forget the onions as well. I'm only joking, but there's obviously there's more things.
Well,
to
it
consider.
might work, might it? So you know, it's worth a try.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Sayed.
Look forward to the next session, and we'll continue this theme of lungs. So hopefully, do stay tuned. And as we were saying, do re-listen to the first show that we went through, sort of the background of the lungs and the function. So.
After the break, we're going to be joined by Sayyid Ali Nawab for more jurisprudential fiqh issues. Stay tuned. We'll see you then. We've now reached the kind of final part of our episode today, and as always, we are kind of winding down just to get some religious sustenance from our dear esteemed guest, Sayyid Ali and Nawab. Many thanks for your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
How are you, Sayyid?
Alhamdulillah.
Good. Thank you for joining us again.
It's Friday, and we're looking forward to the weekend. And I guess we're going to take some of your time to discuss some key issues. As we mentioned, this segment is really covering some miscellaneous topics that aren't really talked about much in society. Maybe it's because let's keep it hush-hush, or maybe it's because people are uneducated about it. I think one of the main hush-hush issues that we have in our society is actually upbringing, but actually parents and their responsibilities to their children, but from a gender perspective, because of course our parents came from a certain country and they obviously were taught in a certain way, but they came into this country, and this country they teach their children in a different way, and then, so there's a mix of societies here, and it's hard for the parents to keep hold of their children, but at the same time they need to kind of really let go a bit because they need to get into society. It's a difficult issue to touch. So I guess we wanted to discuss this.
I will say that we also do know that generation to generation is different. How our parents treated us, we also shouldn't be, our children are from a different generation, so we have different. So we should go to the specialist here.
Thank you. Again, thank you for inviting me over and
our pleasure.
Allowing me to discuss with you this very important and sensitive issue. Again, one of the beauties of Islam as a religion is that it has touched upon this subject very accurately, if I can say. It has studied all the different aspects of upbringing, and it has given us the answers in detail.
Brilliant.
So, taking it from narrations from the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam to actually observing how the Holy Prophet or Ahlul Bayt, members of the Holy Household, dealt with their youngsters, how they brought them up. So, alhamdulillah, the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt and the Shia specifically, they have not been neglected in regards with the way that Islam as a religion advises them or teaches them how to bring up their children. I wanted to start with this beautiful narration, is that the Holy Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Rahimallahu abawain a'ana abna'ahuma," or in another narration, "waladahuma ala birrihima." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring down His blessings and rahmah upon those parents, or the parent that helps and supports their child into obeying them. Because at times there are parents who unfortunately get up to certain acts or deal with their children or behave in a certain way towards their children that the child looks at them in a negative way.
Yeah.
And once they look at them in a negative way, they start doing wrong things.
Yeah.
They start making mistakes. And the parent tends to see that, okay, this child is making a mistake. What was the reason? I wasn't the reason, because I'm the parent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach this child. But what they fail to realize is that because of my way of speaking to them, or because of the way I am behaving towards them, they have committed such an act. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Holy Prophet says, Allah will bring down His blessings upon the parent that helps and supports their child to obey the parent. And same wise, there is another narration that says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring down His wrath upon the parent that commits an act that the child will disobey them.
So
no,
I was going to say, we're all parents here, so and we've all had our own experiences. But in terms of people that are raising young children, what is the way of the Ahlul Bayt, the Holy Prophet, in raising their children? Because we have these debates about beating your child and the discipline levels. What was the path of Ahlul Bayt?
Again, Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and Islam in general, they have come and divided the years or the age years of the child into three different categories. سيد 7 سنين ووزير 7 سنين وصديق 7 سنين.
Brilliant. I love that.
So Islam comes and says that he's a king for himself from the day that he's born until 7 years. That whatever he wants, you have to give him. Whatever he says, you have to say yes, sir. This is the way Islam wants you to teach this child. Why? Because this child has not reached that mental aspect for you to come and say right, wrong, do this, don't do that.
He doesn't understand.
He sees toys, he wants to play. He cannot distinguish between right and wrong. So the second 7 years, he's a wazir. You have to come and start advising him. Or the parent is a wazir to them. That you as a wazir to a master or a king, how do you advise them? You see them committing certain acts, you have to advise them. You see them doing certain things, come to them with a nice manner. Sit down, befriend them. It's a very important issue that the parents understand that at some stage of their child, their son or daughter's life, they have to step backwards from the frame of being a parent and step inwards to becoming a friend.
Yes, beautifully said, yeah.
So because a friend sometimes, as we were discussing, a friend was sometimes can affect or have a positive impact on the life of that child more than the parent. And as we know,
and it's also challenging, isn't it? And I'm sorry, I know you're going to go to the next stage, but it is challenging in these countries where children are taught to, if your parents speak to you, course, support line, it's not like how it is in the eastern side. So how, these are all things that parents have to consider. So while you're saying the second stage is the wazir, where do parents draw a line when that child is crossing certain lines and sort of speaking back and being disobedient? That perhaps, you wouldn't as a parent want to be spoken to.
Of course, if the parents themselves, they stick to the guidelines that Islam has set for them, they will never fall into areas where the child will feel they need to call their support services or to get help from outside the house. But it's only that time that the parent commits that mistake that the child sees, okay, this is a mistake. So where does the parent, or how do the parents distinguish or draw the red line in regards with the behavior of the child? And of course, the community or the society around them, they will understand that this is the parent who is trying to educate. And they want the good for their son or daughter. It's when they come to commit acts which endangers their life and the life of the family. Or they want to go outside the house and befriend individuals who are dangerous to them and to the family, or take, for example, attend events or attend programs or eat certain foods or drinks. They don't know that this is negative or this is bad for them, but the parent distinguishes. But it's always very important that you don't use force or pressure to educate your children regarding certain acts.
How would then the difference be between the genders? And because of course from our perspective, the boys are seen, it looks like they're allowed to do what they want when they want, unless they have to be home at a certain time. They can go out with their friends, they play football, whatever they want they can do. But when it comes to the girl, there's so many different measures that are put in place. If she wants to go out, it has to be once a month, she has to be with certain people, her parents have to go with her. So is that a cultural thing, or does Islam actually place a difference between the discipline between the genders of a male and a female?
Again, we have riwayat from Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam that says al-bintu rahma wal-waladu ni'mah. فالرحمة يثاب عليها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the female is a blessing from me to you, and you will be rewarded on that blessing. And the son, the male, is a ni'mah. Is a ni'mah that I will ask you for this ni'mah. So the way that you bring up your son specifically needs to be in a way that when he grows up, he has to understand the responsibilities that fall upon him and how he is going to be required to get up to certain acts that the whole community will rely on. But in the case of the female, if we go back a little bit in time, in history, we see how in times of Jahiliyyah, the pre-Islamic era, how they used to deal with the male and how they used to look at the female. Here, Islam came and emphasized that the female, it's very important that the community and the family, the immediate family, look up to the female as they look up to the male. Because they used to see that the male is something positive in the clan, in the tribe. They grow up, they become strong, their power against other tribes, other clans, they go out, they fight, they work, they bring food, they bring money. But the female was always looked down upon, and this is wrong. Islam came and emphasized that the half of the community is the male and half of the community is the female. The female has a responsibility. So here the parents, they should be very careful once they are in that process of bringing up their children, especially when they have siblings, when they have children, male and female, that are the same age. Because they always look. How is my mother or how is my father speaking to my brother? Are they speaking to me the same way? Or when they bring gifts, or when they bring, for example, something, especially the daughter, when the father comes from outside, she is the first one that comes and receives the father. I have experienced this myself. I have a 4-year-old, a daughter. and I have an 11 to 12-year-old son. They are occupied. I'm not saying that they're neglecting their rights.
The girls are,
they are occupied with doing something else. But that is that 4-year-old. She's very young, but she understands. She comes to the door and she says, "Daddy." She welcomes. She receives in her own way.
I think for a daughter, her father is, the biggest role model in her life in terms of that love. And I remember with my own father, I was 1.5. He said, "Run to the door when he would arrive." It's that natural instinct for a daughter. So I'm not sure you're blessed to have that in your home.
Alhamdulillah. So here again, Islam comes and says that the way that you bring up your son and daughter will show when they grow up.
Yeah.
If you have done a good job of bringing up that son and daughter, especially but by not letting them realize that you are differentiating between them. Of course, the mother here, Islam advises the parents to separate or to divide the responsibilities when it comes to upbringing the children. If you have a daughter, let the mother take care of that aspect. Of course, the father is very important for him to have a place in her life. But there are certain issues that the mother needs to take care of.
Especially adolescence age, isn't it?
Yes, of course, ahsantum. And the son, the father has to take care of. The mother has to do her duties and her obligation towards the son. But Islam comes and says, okay, there are some situations that you need to leave the mother to deal with, and there are some situations, no, leave the father to deal with. So Islam does divide the responsibilities, but here there are no levels as to or priorities to say that the female is has less priority than the male at home or has more priority. No, Islam looks at the male and the female in the same way.
It's beautiful.
Brilliant.
I think that I'm just going to touch on that. And that's why it goes back to the family unit is so important, because those children, I've seen children that are opposite genders close to the girl would be close to a father before, say, 10 years old. The boys will be perhaps mummy's boys, and then they get to adolescence, and then they go towards I've got friends that say, my daughter doesn't even like me, she's with her dad. And I said, just wait till she's in her adolescence. She will need you as a mother to guide her through that stage, and boys need their fathers, and that's why it's so important that families are kept together. I know it's a different issue in terms of separations and divorces happening, but it impacts your children and their future. And like you said, at the end, when those children become young adults, you can look back and see what went sort of perhaps not right in their life, that they became maybe damaged adults, or not got the support from the parent that was perhaps absent, or and I think as a community there's a lot of support required there for those children that perhaps.
Of course, the community and the society plays a very important role in supporting and aiding the parents to bring up their children. At the time of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, Rasulullah educated the society in a way when they saw the son of a companion or the child of a companion doing certain things wrong, they intervened in a specific way, in a specific manner, or they used to get up to certain acts that the children in the community or in the society would learn from that act. And this was the case in the early stages of our lives, or our parents. They lived in a community or a society back home where the community actually done what they were required to do, because they realized that I, as a friend, or I, as a shop owner, that I am neighbor to that family, I also have a responsibility to look after my friends or my neighbor's son and daughter. If they used to notice that the son or daughter is getting up to mischief or wrongdoings, they used to inform the parents, or they used to come and deal with it in a specific way. So here the community have to play their role.
That's a very important point, actually, because I think as parents, you may be busy with work and home life, and you don't always see what your children get up to.
Sometimes
so
you just need another pair of eyes.
You do, and I think it's really important. Beautiful points you raised there. Thank you again. I think we've come to the end of the show, and I think the overall message I got from that was that treat your children with love, mercy, respect, and inshallah, with the guidance that Ahlul Bayt have given us, and that's. Well, thank you so much.
I think as the 3 pillars of upbringing is the 777. For me, that's perfect.
Yes, and as I said, it's a very sensitive issue that needs more time. But unfortunately, we've run out of time.
7 years as a king, 7 years as a
What's the last
advisor,
7?
and 7 years as a friend.
Friend.
Yeah.
That's when you want to You want to beat them.
No,
I'm
appreciate your
joking.
time, Sayed.
Thank
Of
you.
course, myself and Zahra really appreciate your time, and we appreciate the time of the viewers. It's Friday, so enjoy the day and enjoy your weekend. And inshallah, we'll see you in the next episode. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I am a symbol of faith and a symbol of hope. None can compare to my splendor. Many travel miles from far and wide to see me. They come with their friends and family, some alone. I have the answers to their prayers. I am the key to their deliverance. They are